Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of sources and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge or insight, giving you kind of a shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive into the miraculous feedings by Jesus. Now, you might be familiar with the stories of Jesus feeding thousands, but here's the intriguing part. He actually did it twice. Why two miracles, both involving this incredible provision? And what unique, maybe often overlooked truths do these miraculous feedings reveal about Jesus' identity and, his sweeping mission for you? Our mission today is really to go beyond the surface of these powerful events, examining them verse by verse to uncover why these aren't just, astounding acts of kindness, but deeply theological moments that point to Jesus as the bread of life, demonstrating divine authority, immense compassion, and endless provision. Okay, let's unpack this. So we should probably begin with the first incredible event, the feeding of the 5,000. This miracle is, it's so universally significant that it's recorded in all four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's pretty rare company to be in, isn't it? Only shared with the resurrection itself.
It is. And what's truly fascinating here, especially when we sort of zoom in on the verses, is the immediate context. This miracle unfolds right after the devastating death of John the Baptist. Just imagine the emotional weight of that moment for Jesus and his disciples, a time they sought for profound sorrow and retreat. Yet when Jesus sees the massive crowds following him, he isn't focused on his own grief. Instead, Matthew tells us he is moved with compassion. The disciples, they're looking at the sheer number of people and their utterly limited resources, and they logically suggest sending everyone away to find food for themselves. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally practical.
But Jesus responds with this profound, almost audacious instruction: give ye them to eat. It's a moment that immediately sets the stage for something extraordinary, sort of flipping human logic on its head.
And the details of the miracle itself are truly astounding, aren't they? You've got just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. That's it. And with that meager offering, Jesus feeds approximately 5,000 men. And the scripture importantly adds, beside women and children, which, means the actual number fed was likely much, much higher.
Much higher, exactly.
What's more, after everyone ate their fill, they gathered an incredible 12 baskets of fragments. 12. That's a significant amount of leftovers. This event took place specifically in a Jewish region near Bethsaida.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this particular verse study reveals that this miracle is absolutely packed with spiritual and doctrinal lessons for us. At its core, it profoundly illustrates Jesus as the bread of life, a powerful declaration he makes in John chapter 6, directly after this event.
Ah, okay.
So it's not merely illustrating a title, it's Jesus physically embodying that promise, showing he's the ultimate unending source of life, far beyond just physical food. This was a radical claim, yet here it is undeniably demonstrated before thousands. And the 12 baskets of leftovers, they aren't just a symbol of sufficiency. They're like a divine over-provision that kind of mocks human scarcity. It suggests God's abundance always exceeds our immediate need, hinting at a kingdom where there is always more than enough. These baskets are often seen as symbolizing provision for the 12 tribes of Israel, right? A complete and overflowing blessing for God's chosen people.
When I read about this, my mind immediately jumps back to the wilderness, to the manna God provided for Israel back in Exodus. Is there a connection here, like almost a typology at play that we should be looking at?
Absolutely. That's a brilliant connection. It's spot on. What's fascinating here is that this miracle isn't just a standalone event. It's a powerful typology, essentially, a divine pattern or symbol in the Old Testament pointing to something greater in the New. Just as God miraculously fed Israel with manna, Jesus, the bread of life, now provides.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. It also prefigures the Lord's Supper, where Christ offers himself as spiritual sustenance, a deeper, eternal bread for all believers. This raises an important question for us. Why did Jesus feed them instead of sending them away, as the disciples suggested?
Yeah, why?
Well, our sources, particularly Matthew, tell us it was to demonstrate his profound compassion and his divine ability to meet both physical and spiritual needs. He wasn't just performing a trick. He was revealing who he is.
And that profound revelation of his true identity must have significant implications for our approach to ministry today, wouldn't you say? How do we translate that compassion and power into, what we do?
Oh, it's crucial.
Yeah.
This miracle teaches us that ministry must be rooted in that same deep compassion Jesus showed. It really has to be. It also teaches us to trust in God's provision, not to be limited by our own perceived human limitations or what we think we have available. It's about obedience and faith, recognizing that God's resources are limitless, even when ours feel, well, very limited.
Okay, so now let's turn our attention to the second miraculous feeding, the one with the 4,000. This one is found in Matthew 15 and Mark 8. It's often overshadowed by the 5,000, I think. But as we dig into the verses here, it holds its own unique and incredibly significant lessons.
It really does. And the context here is truly crucial for understanding its unique significance and why it stands distinct from the first miracle. This feeding occurs in the region of Decapolis.
Decapolis.
Which, unlike the previous setting that was explicitly Jewish, was distinctly a Gentile area. That's key.
Ah, okay. Big difference.
Huge difference. And the crowd had been with Jesus for 3 days, not just one, showing their persistent dedication. 3 whole days.
Wow.
And again, Jesus declares, just as before, I have compassion on the multitude. This time, however, the compassion is explicitly extending beyond the typical Jewish audience, demonstrating a radical inclusivity.
And the details are distinct too, which really helps confirm these are indeed separate events. You can see it clearly. This time, Jesus uses 7 loaves of bread and a few small fishes to feed 4,000 men, again, beside women and children.
Right.
And from this, they gathered 7 baskets of leftovers. That number 7. In biblical thought, it often symbolizes completeness or perfection, right?
Exactly.
So that highlights a divine fullness specific to this Gentile outreach. This event specifically highlights Christ's ministry expanding into a Gentile region. That's a truly groundbreaking moment, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely groundbreaking.
Yeah.
The spiritual and doctrinal lessons here powerfully reinforce that Jesus' compassion is truly not limited by ethnicity or geography. Not at all.
Yeah.
The 7 baskets can symbolize spiritual completeness for the Gentile world, reinforcing the truth that salvation is offered to all. Like Paul says in Romans, there is no distinction between Jew and Gentile.
Yeah.
It's another powerful typology. Just as Israel received manna, so too do the Gentiles now receive bread, spiritual sustenance, directly from Christ. It fundamentally breaks down all the old barriers, showing Jesus' universal reach.
So if we look at this miracle through the lens of a verse study, why is the second feeding particularly significant for Gentile believers then? What's the core message here for them, and maybe for us today, about the universality of Christ's provision?
Well, it emphatically shows that Jesus' provision and compassion extend beyond the boundaries of Israel, reaching out to the whole world, to every nation and people. Mark chapter 8, where Jesus expresses his compassion for the multitude, powerfully implies this universal reach. It's right there.
Yeah.
The number 7 here perfectly represents that spiritual completeness and God's provision for everyone, regardless of their background or heritage. It's a profound statement that the gospel is for all.
It's a common question, though, when studying the Gospels. Are these just 2 accounts of the same event? People wonder that. But our sources, backed by scholarly insight, confirm they are distinctly separate events, absolutely not duplicates. And really, understanding that they are distinct adds so much more depth, doesn't it?
It truly does. The differences are key to understanding their individual theological weight. Let's maybe lay them out clearly.
Good idea.
First, the location. The feeding of the 5,000 was Jewish, near Bethsaida, while the feeding of the 4,000 occurred in a Gentile region, Decapolis. That's a huge geographical and cultural distinction.
Right.
Second, the food quantity varied. 5 loaves and 2 fish for the 5,000 versus 7 loaves and a few small fish for the 4,000. Different starting points.
Okay.
Third, the leftovers were distinctly different. 12 baskets remaining after feeding the 5,000 and 7 baskets after feeding the 4,000. Those numbers aren't random, they carry meaning. And finally, the duration the crowd had been with Jesus also differed. 1 day for the first miracle versus 3 days for the second. These are not minor discrepancies. They confirm 2 unique events, each with its own specific emphasis.
It's fascinating, though, that the feeding of the 5,000 is the only miracle besides the resurrection itself recorded in all 4 Gospels. What makes it so universally significant that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all felt it absolutely had to be included in their accounts? What's foundational about the particular event?
Well, I think it's because it serves as a universally recognized sign of Jesus' divine authority, a foundational declaration to all of humanity. In John chapter 6, following this miracle, it leads directly into the bread of life discourse.
Right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, which is a foundational doctrinal moment for understanding who Jesus is and what he offers, not just physical sustenance, but eternal spiritual life. It powerfully reinforces Jesus as the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy and typology, connecting him to God's past provision and future promises. It's truly foundational for understanding Christ's identity.
And the 4,000, even though it's only recorded in Matthew and Mark, still holds immense importance. It's not less significant, just different in its emphasis, focusing on that expansive compassion, you could say.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It powerfully demonstrates Jesus' compassion for non-Jews and the expansion of his ministry beyond the geographical and cultural confines of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It shows the gospel message isn't just for one group.
Mm-hmm.
Its absence in Luke or John is likely due to their specific narrative purposes. Luke's focus was often on apostolic teaching and Jewish outreach, while John's gospel emphasizes theological signs already fulfilled perhaps by the comprehensive bread of life implications of the 5,000 miracle. The repetition of similar miracles truly underscores a profound truth, that Jesus' provision is not limited. He feeds both Jew and Gentile, near and far, demonstrating his universal grace.
Okay, so now let's bring these ancient stories into your life today. This isn't just about historical facts or some academic verse study. It's about timeless principles, right? What are the practical applications, the principles we can draw from these profound events and, integrate into our own walk and work?
Yeah, definitely. There are several key takeaways for us to apply from these miraculous feedings. First, there's the ministry principle. We are called to serve others with genuine compassion, even when resources seem scarce or challenges feel overwhelming. It's about seeing a need, like Jesus did, and responding, trusting God for the means.
Okay.
Second, the faith principle. These stories teach us to trust God to multiply what we offer in obedience. Remember, it wasn't about the quantity of the loaves and fish in the disciples' hands initially, but their willingness to offer them to Jesus. What seems small to us can be multiplied by him.
That's powerful.
Third, the evangelism principle. The gospel, like the bread, is for all. No one is outside the reach of Christ's compassion. These miracles, especially the feeding of the 4,000 in a Gentile region, break down any perceived barriers or limitations to who can receive God's provision and salvation. It's for everyone.
Right.
And finally, the discipleship principle. As followers of Christ, we are to teach others to rely on him daily, not just in moments of crisis. It's about cultivating a consistent dependence on divine provision, recognizing that Jesus is our continuous source of spiritual and physical sustenance, the true bread of life.
So to sort of bring it all together, what have we learned from this deep dive into these miraculous feedings? The feeding of the 5,000 was a universal sign, deeply tied to Jesus' identity and his foundational teaching as the bread of life, which is precisely why all four gospel writers included it.
Exactly. And the feeding of the 4,000 was, regional and inclusive, specifically showing Jesus' compassion, extending beyond Israel, reaching out to the Gentiles. This emphasis is why it was prominently recorded by Matthew and Mark.
Together, they reveal a profound and encompassing truth. Jesus feeds all who come to him, whether Jew or Gentile, with abundant grace, divine power, and eternal provision. And this really raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. In your own life, where are you perhaps looking at perceived human limitation rather than trusting in abundant divine provision? Or maybe how might you be called to extend compassion and provision beyond your immediate circle, reflecting the expansive heart of Christ that we've explored today? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's provided you with some new insights and connections into these powerful biblical accounts. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing.